We are live? Cool. Hello, Internet. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this PyMe meetup, Python Milan meetup. So who we are an open community for developers and hobbyists having fun with Python. We do a lot of stuff. We have two monthly meetups, one for Python Milan, mostly related to Python itself, and another one with PyData, which is more related to data science and data stuff. Then we also have Intervista Pythonista, which is a podcast in Italian, interviewing some Italian people, some very important Italian people. The faces are, if we had to put there all the faces, probably they would have covered all the whole slide. Then we do Py Beer once every, I don't know, couple of months, 3 months, yeah. When we want to just join a beer with some friends, we have a Py Beer. And we also hosted a Python conference, Py for AI, right? Yes. Okay. And we're going to do again? Maybe. We are working on it. If you want to join our community, just go to milano.python.it or use the QR code. Thanks to our hosts, we usually go to a different place every time. These are all the companies that hosted us. Today we are in Team System. Thanks also to Python Italia, which is giving us some stuff like the microphone, stickers, and soon, yeah, online they cannot see it, but we also have a banner, a huge, beautiful banner. Then thanks for supporting live video streaming to Division Lab, who gave us the live streaming stuff. A little announcement, you have a 10% discount for Rust Lab and Go Lab. Will take place in Florence in November from 9th to 13th. So if you want to join a great conference, it's really similar to PyCon Italy, that I don't know very well, and it's organized by the same people, basically. Okay. Last but not least, if you want to join the meetups of PyData Milan, use this QR code. And that's it. Now off we go with the tonight topic. Tonight, instead of having two talks like we usually do, we have a panel. So you can see all the chairs here. I will be just moderating. By the way, I'm Lorenzo. I'm a technical dev in Kraken technology. Today, I'm gonna present the people that is really interesting, the real protagonist of tonight. So you can enter now. Surprise.
And now the plot twist. We're doing a cage match.
No, we're not doing any cage match, but it will be probably similar. Let's see. So let's present the people. Luca Mattiazzi, that's it. Works in a team that creates machine learning models, not an AI expert in particular. He uses the AI as a tool in his daily work. Then we have Daniele Zonca, senior architect in OpenShift AI. He will give us the behind-the-scenes perspective and will help us keep our feet on the ground without too much philosophy. Ignacio Sanz. He's a copywriter. He will provide a non-technical view of the use of ChatGPT and similar tools. Marco Vinciguerra. He's 24 years old. He created a Python library that uses LLM for scraping. I would define him as LLM native because he started developing when LLM was already a thing. He's fascinated by the emerging professions like prompt engineering. And finally, Emanuele Fabbiani, PhD in machine learning, professor at UNICAT, AI engineer at Extreme. He develops machine learning models and uses AI in his daily work. He will speak about it at conferences. So, a little round of applause. Thank you. Today we are going to talk about AI in our work, meaning mostly developers, but not only. Why we are talking about this? Well, it's today news that a Nobel Prize was awarded to 2 physicists, and also another Nobel Prize for chemistry. And both were because of AI, because of the incredible growth of AI in the last months, I would say. I was about to say years, but actually it's months. So, first question, very easy one. Will we all lose our jobs? So, Copilot, ChatGPT, and other tools can be seen as a lot of new devs entering in the market. On the left, we can see the results of ChatGPT passing American exams and also some code tests. So for the first question, I will start from here. We have a problem today. We only have 2 microphones. One is for me, one is for all of you. So please take it close to the mouth. So are we going to lose our jobs?
I don't think so. Imagine like 100 years ago, 200 years ago, when there was the first and the second industrial revolution. Basically, the new invention didn't make people lose their job, but I think that we will have new jobs. Some years ago, I've read an article that was said that the kids that will start the elementary school in these years will do a job that it does not exist right now. And basically, I see the new jobs in 2 ways. The first one will be something like highly specialized jobs. The second one will be like I think jobs that can be done also by donkeys, I think, or monkeys. That, for example, regarding the agent, they will be like human on the loop people that just to validate if the response by the LLM will be correct or not. That's my idea.
Cool.
Yeah, I tend to agree that usually when there are this kind of evolution, yes, some jobs maybe are going to be different. Most probably new jobs are going to be created. My also feeling is that, in terms of, for example, about code generation, in my day-to-day job, the speed of how fast I can write code is never a matrix about, this is going to improve my throughput, because if that's the only thing that I do, probably I'm not doing it right. I mean, usually I expect that the vast majority is about thinking about the requirement, discussing about, what you are trying to achieve. So on that type of things, this kind of tool can help. Scaffolding can help many different steps. Similar about content creation, it can help you to give some structure that you then are going to work on, but I don't expect that is going to replace the actual human interaction.
Yeah, of course I agree with what they said already. I do, I mean, of course it's going to change the way I do my job. I think that it's going to change in a few years, but I don't even think that it's possible to make a prediction since the changes that we are seeing right now has happened only in the past few years. So I think it would be hard to make a hard prediction on what is going to happen. I do believe that the way I started my career as a developer is going to not be possible anymore, because I started as a, let's say, code monkey. I mean, I didn't know how to write code. So when I started, I just did menial tasks that now can be almost automated, most of them, I think, at least. So I think that the way that the thing that I do will start is going to be completely different, and the way that people learn how to do what I do is going to be completely different, and what I do currently is going to change completely. But I'm hopeful that the job that I do, and I guess a lot of people here does, is going to still exist, at least for the next few years. In the long term, I have no idea. I guess in the long term, what we do is going to disappear, because what we do is going not to be done by humans, I guess. But at the same time, I can think of a lot of jobs that currently have done by people, and then I guess that can be automated, but still they exist and then can have been automated for years, I guess. So we move really slowly regarding these things, but yeah, we will lose our jobs, as in our job won't exist as it is right now, and in the long term. But no, I don't think we will lose a lot of jobs. Sorry if I was too. I talked too much. Sorry.
Feel free. No. No. So many interesting things have already been said. So I'll try to give maybe some different perspective on this topic. First is use this table as an argument to say that we may lose our jobs, but this table actually only displays exams or ways of evaluating the fitness of people to jobs, which means, is that way reasonable in 2024? That is a question I don't know how to answer, but it's a different one from the one in the title, and maybe we can discuss on that if you want later on. But actually, will we all lose our jobs? Probably not. Will someone lose their job? Probably yes. Is it bad? Probably not. Because, you see, everything that has made our society richer is basically a long-term increase in productivity. Long-term increase in productivity means that it takes less time to do the same job, or that job can be done by a machine. It happened in agriculture, it happened in the industry. Now, for the probably first time, it's happening in intellectual jobs, not for the first time because computers are a thing of the 90s, but this time looks more impactful. Is it bad? I don't think so. It's just another way of making our society richer, hopefully in the near future.
Cool. Yeah. Okay, well, I represent a minority here because I don't code for a living, okay? So I guess, I don't know how many of you don't code, but I don't think. Yes. So in the creative industry, this is going to be a massacre, okay? Because in the higher end, probably people won't lose their jobs. But people who do like this small copywriting or graphic design for a living, they are already now losing their jobs in order for Canva or Adobe Express or whatever services. Perhaps there was some small city graphic designer who used to do these leaflets for the pizza parlor around the corner. They are not getting their jobs anymore. That job posts are gone. It's like in the bottom end of that spectrum, people are going to lose their jobs. If you are a pro of graphic design or like me in TV and movies, I'm not a super pro, but I have like 20 years of experience, so I can manage with that. But if you are a pro, you are going to use that tools to make a better job. But if you are just in the lower end, it will really be devastating because a lot of people are going to lose their jobs because that kind of work, the work it's need for, to keep a Facebook page alive with 3 posts a week, it all be automatic. It will be gone.
Okay, so basically what I understand is probably some of us will lose our job, and people is already losing their job.
Yeah.
Because the lower end, so the simple things, can be
Which
made.
is all the spectrum that is closest to the amateur work, because those divide is like going away. It's almost easier to do a high quality job without being an amateur. It's like YouTube and the professional TV. That difference every time is getting more close, because now with your phone you can shoot something like really nice quality. So you don't have to have a professional quality like you had to have like 15 years ago. So the less professional you are, the more hard it will be to get a paid job for that.
Right, so it's a tool that will enable people to improve their.
It will enable people to develop creative products. I'm talking just from my point of view. Okay?
Yeah, but
Develop
I
products,
think
but
it really parallel. There is a parallel with our job.
it's like amateur coder. I am an amateur coder, and I couldn't ship professional code, no. But I could do something much or less like pretty standard using this kind of tools, of AI tools. But I couldn't make a living out of it.
Yeah. By the way, if you want to take the microphone at any time, just ask for it. And also from the audience, if you want to ask questions, add something, even not question, but something you're thinking, you're free to do it. And also from YouTube. So please keep an eye on the comments. So yeah, in a way, we need to learn a new paradigm of development process. Here we can see from, it's a statistics from a study they made on GitHub, and they gave the same project to two groups of developers. 50 did not use GitHub Copilot, 45 used GitHub Copilot, and 78% of developer finished, so 8% more than the people not using GitHub Copilot. And all the people using Copilot were faster. So it really is a tool to me. It's like an IDE, a very advanced IDE that will propose you the next line of code. Or is it?
May I start on this one?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Because on this topic, I studied a little bit last year to deliver a couple of talks in London and in, I think it was Berlin, the other one. But there are 2 points that I want to make. First one is there are many studies like this. Some of them made by GitHub itself and other by independent organizations. An interesting one developed by GitHub also measures the satisfaction of engineers using these tools, and the results are very positive. So people feel more accomplished because they get more stuff done using Copilot than without using it. Which kind of stuff, though? Here I want to quote a sentence by Guido van Rossum in an interview with Lex Friedman, and Guido said, look, I use GitHub Copilot every day. It doesn't save me a lot of thinking, but it automates away the boring stuff for me so that I can do my engineering job better because I'm not overwhelmed with boilerplate code and stuff like that. And this is Guido van Rossum, so it's not me or some other amateur developer. It's a professional and a good one. Last point that I want to throw as a provocation, maybe to Marco, is about starting with LLMs. Because there is a paper published in an IEEE conference that uses students as volunteers for an experiment, a controlled experiment like this one, about writing code which has been selected by the researchers to be really problematic from an information security point of view. So there are functions that are very prone to have vulnerabilities. And the results of the research was that people using Codex at the time, so the first version of Copilot, first introduced more vulnerabilities, and second, were much more confident about their code being correct while it wasn't. So this is probably a risk that we're going to face if we introduce these tools at the very first level. It's like, teaching kids to count with a calculator. Is it effective? I'm not sure. But here I call Malco for...
You anticipated, by the way, some of these questions. So how should we use AI in our daily work? How should we not use it?
Can you go to the previous slide,
Sure.
please? I think the reason is because they use JavaScript. By the way, from this picture, I don't understand the level of the coders, the developers. So
Good point.
we have to think about it. Honestly, at the beginning, when OpenAI came out with GPT 3.5, I started to begin like a kind of addictive to ChatGPT, and I used just to say the problem and what I needed, and I was like a copy-paste guy, and if the output was not correct, I said to ChatGPT, the output is not correct, correct it. So basically, I think it could damage the guys and the younger generation when they started to code, because honestly, they don't need to learn the basics and the mindset anymore. So I think this could be a little bit of problem. And one solution can be like, you cannot use ChatGPT for coding till you are like 26 or... This could be a solution, honestly.
With the LLM driving
Yeah, yeah.
license.
Yeah, because there are people who just write the code, the problem, they copy the code and they paste it, and they not use their mind anymore. And this is the issue, in my opinion. So thank you.
Wasn't the same issue with Stack Overflow?
Yes, but with Stack Overflow, you had to read and change the code. Instead, with ChatGPT, you have just to copy-paste, in my opinion.
Even with Stack Overflow, there is a Python library automatically downloading the code from Stack Overflow, whatever you ask it.
Okay, but when I used to see Stack Overflow, I don't know if they failed or not now. The main problem was like, okay, this is the solution of the issue of the writer,
I see.
not my solution. So I need to change a little bit my logic of the solution, of the answer. So this is the main difference, in my opinion.
I see.
Instead, with ChatGPT, you say like, this is the problem, you need to go there, and please write me the code. And basically, the code, the answer from ChatGPT is ready to use.
Yeah, it's tailored around your request.
I don't know about everyone, but I rarely write code in a vacuum. So what I'm saying is that, yeah, of course, I've read that paper too as well, by the way. And that's really interesting. The fact is that usually you don't ship your code right away. So there is a process, and the security part of the process can be still the same thing can happen with Stack Overflow. The same thing I've heard by people that say that if you start learning JavaScript with a framework, you won't learn Vanilla.js, and therefore you won't ever be able to use JavaScript as you should, and you will make mistakes. And I mean, I guess the same thing can be said in several iterations. Anytime coding has become easier. In this case, we are just having a new interface when you write our code. And I'm not saying that we should be using LLMs to generate our code and using it as it is. I'm just saying that, yeah, of course, it's a problem if people is too confident in their code, even if that's not their code, and that is something that can happen. But we are referring about students, and usually students are not the people that write their code and commit directly to production. Yeah, I guess that's this thing can always happen. I mean, I was a junior developer and I wrote really bad code in the past. I still do, but the fact is that when I do that, there is somebody that knows better than me, or even maybe they just have a different point of view from me. So. Yes, it is dangerous to trust stuff like that, but as it was dangerous to trust Stack Overflow, even if Stack Overflow has a kind of rating, so there are other people that will tell you if that solution works or if it doesn't work or stuff like that. But while that's by the way, one of my main problem with LLMs, and if there is a possibility, that's something I would wanted to talk about it later. The fact is that. Yeah, of course, that's a problem, but I don't think that that's something that we should be investigating too much right now, because we are at the dawn of these tools. In, I guess, 3 years, something like that is going to be completely different. I expect that if you write, there was like a cryptographic library. One of the example of that paper was that they needed to encrypt with a symmetric key in Python a message and then decrypt it. I expect that maybe LLMs can make some mistakes currently. In 3 years' time, I don't expect LLMs to make mistakes in something that easy. So the student that uses that solution will likely be better than the student that doesn't use the solution in 3-4 years' times. So yeah, of course, currently is a problem, but I don't think that that's something that we should be too much focusing on right now. I think that that's something that in the short term will change completely the way that younger people will write code. Sorry.
No, finish.
I'm done.
Yeah, I mean, there are different aspects about using similar tool. One of the main challenges, especially if working with, let's say, enterprise or in general customers that are pretty big, usually they have strict policy about not using similar tool, because there is a risk about sending your data, even, let's say, closed source data, maybe to an external tool that maybe can use them even to retrain. Another one is about that most of those models at the moment doesn't have any particular evidence about the fact that the source code that they used, even in GitHub, has a proper license about, yes, I can use that source to learn. So it's very likely that you can get the risk about producing something that maybe it's not compliant with your internal license, or it's maybe based on how GPL apply to a derived code based on that. Does it still apply? There are a lot of legal implications on that. In the long run, I expect that this might become part of the IDE overall of that use on daily basis. There is already a lot of, let's say, important feature about refactoring that 10 years ago maybe was not really available, and is going to become better and better. At the same time, from a level of maturity perspective, if it's your toy project, yes, play with that. If it's your day job, my suggestion, don't use that.
At all?
At all.
Oh.
That's a very strong
Well, I mean,
opinion.
I don't know if internally the policy that we have is that we cannot use that. Many open source projects are already claiming like you should not provide code generated, because at the moment we cannot have any even ethical aspect about how it's been generated. So in many cases at the moment this is still not an option in terms of from a compliance perspective. Then of course you can always do whatever you want, similar about copy and paste your question on Stack Overflow and similar. But at the moment, I don't think that this kind of tool are, let's say, stable or in general mature enough for that type of usage.
Okay. In any case, you won't notice if someone is putting some code with the help of an LLM.
Yeah, I mean, let's say, if you work in a bank, for example, they're usually pretty strict about the firewall and similar. They ban every possible, even they are close to ban Google itself. I mean, you usually cannot really access the internet freely. So yeah, it's a concern. And one of the concerns is also that at the moment, it's not easy to detect if the code has been automatically generated. So that is a completely different field about that. That's true for code, but also text generation, of course. Yeah. Or image generation, I mean.
There was a question there?
Do you think that this tool in future can be used to scrutinize code? I mean, doing code reviews instead of generating code, or do, I don't know, security scan on the code, see if the code is unsecure or not, stuff like this.
I'm not too sure about that, but I think that there is a GitHub tool on beta that does that. If you can also write the issue, and it will write the code for solving that issue, if I remember correctly. It's in beta. I tried it, but if you have a library, it's not too precise enough because it does not have the knowledge about the whole library. So right now it's they are not mature enough, in my opinion.
We use that in the company. So yeah, we do use GitHub Copilot. Everyone has access to it, and we do use Codium AI actually, which is an open source project for automatic code reviews. It does not replace the human reviewer. It's not very effective at the moment, to be fairly honest with you. It's very useful to write the description of the PR. I just write the title nowadays because the description is better if it is automatically written by the AI than by me because I'm lazy. And the model is not.
Is the description also using the code itself to
Yeah.
write it?
Yeah, it does.
Do you use Cursor inside your company?
Some people are trying it, but it's not a standard yet. The standard is Copilot at the moment. To follow up on your position, I mean, the nice thing about panels is that you can disagree, and I do. I think that we really need to diversify software engineering and coding, because LLMs at the moment, for their level of maturity, I'm not talking about what will happen in 2 or 3 years' time because I don't know, but at the moment, for their level of maturity, are very good at coding. They're pretty bad at software engineering, which means that if you just want to write function or a couple of lines of code, or even better, a cell in a notebook using pandas that you will throw away anyway in a couple of days' time, using an LLM saves you time. And that's the most valuable thing, because you want to use that time to look at the chart of the output of that cell and think, what are the data telling me? It's a different matter in software engineering. So I think that in general, a very nice heuristic to use LLMs in any field is they're very good at solving a problem which is hard to solve but very easy to check with your level of understanding of the matter. So if you can ask an LLM to write just a couple of lines of code and it's very easy to check if they're correct, that's a nice use case for an LLM. Creating an architecture for software engineering, first, probably they are not able to do it, and second, it's not that easy to check and understand if it is correct. So, yeah, that's just my point of view.
I want to ask you a question. Okay, Lele. From my understanding, software engineering, it is a creative entrepreneur, creative task. Yeah. So you have to make creative decisions. Which is the best solution for this given problem? Can you teach an LLM to do that sort of decisions?
I have no idea. I don't know.
Probably the question is, what is the difference between coding and software engineer?
Okay. So coding is just writing a series of statements that solves a problem. Software engineering is creating a bunch of modules which is easy to read, easy to maintain, easy to evolve. The second problem is much more difficult than the first one.
It's like, from the copy perspective, it would be more or less the same difference between write me a paragraph about, I don't know, anything, or write me a book about a story that goes here and there, and then the creativity can apply in that case. In our job, in our case, the knowledge, how can I say, maybe someone else, what a developer is, what a software engineer actually, what is the plus of having a software engineer doing the architecture of an application instead of asking ChatGPT to do the architecture?
maybe to make your example more concrete, I think that it's the same difference as just writing a paragraph and thinking about the "just do it" as a slogan of Nike. That's creativity. That's something you can use an LLM as a copilot for, but you cannot just ask, okay, give me a slogan for my company and pray for it. Wants to follow up?
Otherwise,
I have done it. Okay.
okay. So this chart shows a couple of metrics. I've found a study defining the impact of LLM in 4 different dimensions, let's say. First is automation, when you use the AI fully. So you give something to the AI and the AI does everything. Second level is lower potential, when you use the AI to enhance the productivity. Third is exposure, so you're working as usual, but you have some influence from the AI. And the fourth is non-language tasks, so no, basically physical labor, no impact by the AI. And of course, each profession has a different impact on there. Of course, like farm labor contractors will likely not be impacted so much. And while HR recruiters, those kind of people might be helped in some cases. And for us, it's a balance. So we can automate stuff given to the AI. For example, I think it was a great example to have a review on the PR, maybe to identify, I don't know, infinite loops or all the things that now is made by static code analysis, but a step beyond. Maybe, I don't know, identifying code smells, stuff like that. Or it can help giving us a draft solution that we can improve, and so on and so forth. So yeah, I think we answered those questions. What next?
Lorenzo?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Can I add just one point? There was a sentence there about non-language tasks that will not be automated by AI. Not until now, but think about the future. So the problem now with LLMs is that we basically used up all the data sources that were out there. And the next huge source of data that we have not completely exploited yet are videos, because they're very hard to process from an engineering perspective. Lots of pictures linked through time. But once you go there, and companies now have a huge economic incentive to go there, especially Google that owns YouTube. Once you go there, from videos you can try and extrapolate some kind of unsupervised model of reality. And from having that model to using it to control something, the step is not huge. It is very difficult, but it's not huge. So I'm really sure that in 5-10 years' time, non-language tasks will be, quote-unquote, safe from AI. I'm not that sure, honestly.
I'm not sure I understand. Can you make an example?
Yeah, I mean, think about the task of cleaning up this room by taking away of the chairs, right? Performing this task means that you need to have an understanding of the space, and you need to act on the space, right? Okay. As of now, we had to model all these tasks. I don't want to say deterministically, but with ad hoc models. The advantage of LLMs is that they are completely unsupervised, and they do not need a specific model for each situation. So if you can do that with space and not just with language, then you have something that can act on many diverse situations. And this is something that you main thing of doing from videos on YouTube. Once you have that, once you have something that, I mean, if I can point the camera to this room and say, oh, what is the trajectory that you would take to go and collect all the chairs, then doing it on actuators is not that difficult. I mean, in relative terms, it's very difficult from an engineering perspective, but I mean, with resources, with infinite resources, you can do it. So that's the point. I mean, if I have to think about the future trajectory of AI, acting on the physical world is not so far away. I don't know
Let's
if
talk
I
about the
answered
future.
question. Yeah,
You always anticipate my questions. Okay, so
I'm sorry.
no, that's perfect. Actually, it seems like I gave you the presentation before, but it didn't happen. So AI will play an increasingly important role in our industry, automation, augmentation, and we will have new professions, new AI model engineers, prompt engineers, and so on and so forth. So how do you imagine our work in 5 years? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? And how can you prepare for it? If not 5 years, maybe 6 months?
Yeah, so
Closer?
about that, there is since AlphaFold, DeepMind researchers won a Nobel Prize in chemistry for AlphaFold, and AlphaFold is an AI tool that predicts how a protein will fold just given the amino acid sequence, and it's really a huge problem that up until a few years ago, when AlphaFold was developed, was completely impossible to solve. We used to run simulations that took months of computer time, and it was completely impossible to do that at a scale. We have that as a scale, and that is something that can teach us something about how we should proceed, because we have the first results of having AlphaFold in the biochemistry field for a few years. And what's happening is that AlphaFold, such as LLMs like we use right now, is helping researchers in what they do. It's speeding their work, but that is giving and what is really helping in AlphaFold, that is something that I don't see currently in our tools, is that AlphaFold also gives the confidence in its predictions. So when you use AlphaFold, you get a structure and you get the confidence of AlphaFold that structure is correct. What I guess is going to happen at some point in time is that if these tools such as ChatGPT and stuff like that is going to generate more and more part of the code that we don't need to write anymore, because again, that should not be the main focus of our time or our mental energy, I guess. And I hope that what is going to happen is that it's going to give us solutions. It's going to tell us which solution it's pretty confident in, and the solution in which it's not confident in, and it's going maybe to give us suggestion, and we are going to use that suggestion just like we use the code that we might get from any other point. So we have libraries that we trust in, we have code from other people we trust in, we have a lot of stuff that we already trust. We're just going to give some of our trust to something that we don't really know very much, but that we might start to trust. So I expect that in the next future we're going to get this information, we're going to use it just like libraries, and maybe we are going to have maybe I will use a library that is installed 1 million times. I will not maybe use a library that's not been updated in the last 3 years and it's like just a few users. But I guess that something like that will give us the confidence from the AI, is going to give us some more tools for us to use something like that. And so I expect that I mean, at least I are going to be more trustful in stuff like that, because it's going to crystallize in our usual workflow. So that's what I expect from the near future.
Thank you. Any other predictions?
Well, from content creation, it was like I was saying before, it would be much easier to begin to create content. So if you have an idea for a podcast, perhaps you won't even have to record it if you don't like to record it. I wouldn't advise it, but if you are like too shy to speak in front of a microphone, even you can write it down or ask your LLM to write it for you, and you can supervise it and then a synthesized voice to record it. So the possibilities will be huge. perhaps the biggest challenge will be get actual people to listen and to see your content. I think that could be one of the major challenges. Finding actual public, because today we are flooded with content. Imagine 5 years from now how much content there will be available. Today we don't have enough time to see everything that is available on Netflix. Imagine 5 years from now when you can see every movie you can imagine, there will be instantly generated. I mean, there will be even a greater offer of content. I mean, and we all be living 24-hour days, so that will be quite a challenge.
We already have a lot of content
Exactly.
to see. The problem is probably that it's content. It's not art. It's not
They're not
something
stories.
with a soul, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, and that leads to the next slide, which is content. I think that the tendency of AI is to produce mediocre content. I mean, because AI or LLM are trained on a data set and they are converging to that data set, right? It's like taking an average of all the content they give. But humans tend to diverge from the average because they want to propose something new, something different. That's especially valid for copy,
The whole story of art is that the synthesis, and then comes the antithesis, and you come from cubism, then you go to the other way. From impressionism, then you have go to cubism. There's the futurism. There one school is trying to challenge the previous one. That's part of the story of the art. But yes, being a statistical process, you correct me if I am wrong, LLMs tend to go for the major, the wider road, the most used road. While in art, you try to use the least used little streets. So.
Is it though? Because OpenAI at the moment is seeking for information, for data, fresh data, because in the future, with a lot of content produced by AI, the AI will start using their own content to produce another content. And at that point, what kind of content will we have? Will be valuable? And also, you mentioned the artistic currents.
Schools.
Yeah, schools, okay. I think we have the same also in engineering, because we had object-oriented programming, we had service-oriented architecture, and that were invention from humans. If you were using LLM at that time, you will never come up with something different from the previous, right?
Yeah, regarding the content, my wish is not to make the same error that people did when internet came up. Basically, when there was internet was born, people used to say something like, with internet, people will be more connect and it will level up basically the IQ of the society. And in 2024 we have TikTok and a lot of waste. I think that the most amount of data generated by internet is done by something by Netflix and TikTok, and I wish that we will not make the same error with the LLMs, basically.
How can we not do the same error?
I think that nice question. Again, to limit the people that will use that, because yeah, basically when the internet came out, it was very difficult, like to open the PC, you writing on the blog post, and the quality of the blog post, in my opinion, it was higher than the today's content, because everyone now can access to internet, also the dumb people. So I think that we have to make a patent also for this. Like, if you want to use AI for stupid things, you will not allow. I look like a dictator tonight. I don't know why.
Don't worry, it's recorded.
Sorry, it's just that I
will be bounded in the night.
I'm sorry, I just don't agree with that. But first of all, I guess we are seeing the past with rose-tinted glasses because in the past there was plenty of bad content on the internet. It's just that there was not many people on the internet, but there was plenty of bad content. And currently there is a fuckload of bad content and some specific parts. Yeah, but I mean there is still good content, and the fact that we as humans tend to diverge. Yeah, some specific humans tend to diverge. The mean human does not diverge because by definition the mean human converts to the main of it. I mean, if there is a wider road, it's because a lot of people have done that. So that's not exactly what is going to happen. People already converge to the mainstream, and there are some specific persons that are able to diverge, and those are the specific person that created the schools of arts. But I guess that if we all start to paint, but maybe a small percentage of people is going to become a really great painter. Most people will just follow something that already other people have done. So I don't expect AI to do something that artistic in the short term, but I don't also believe that people have like a magic flame that provides creativity to them. I just think that there are a lot of people and there has been a lot of time. So in something good has come out of what we do. And I guess that the internet is actually a great success because, yeah, of course we see all of the bad stuff and we are inundated with that, but there is also a lot of great, amazing things that have come out of the internet. So I think that same thing will going to happen from AI. It's just that that's going to happen in the midst of a lot of bad things that we might see because they are all thrown at us quickly. But I mean, I don't think that human artists tend to diverge. I think that most human artists tend to convert to something that works. But I mean, that's just...
I have one question. Yeah. Is it possible to create like an opposite of LLM, a kind of a freak that will do this, in your opinion? Like you give some data and you say, okay, give me the opposite of this data so it will diverge instead of converge. It's a kind of opposite of convergence.
I guess that I mean, I'm not an expert in this field, so I don't know. But what I think is that if our metrics currently train our data model to try to be as similar as possible to the data they're trained on, that is something that's hard to happen. Okay. But if we are able to, yeah.
But if you choose as a matrix the max distance between the convergence, is it still?
I don't think. Sorry.
You still need to have yeah. boundaries, because if you're asking a picture of a strange house, it's still a house.
Yeah.
Right? It's still a picture.
Depends on your definition of opposite.
Yeah, if you think about the huge dimensionality space in which you put your picture, you cannot think. I mean, if your picture is in a huge dimension space, it's at one point, and you ask for the point on the opposite side of the dimension space, you're going to get garbage because, of course, it's useless.
It's white noise.
Yeah, that's white noise, of course. But what we want is to create something that appeals to people, because again, the cubism is not great in a vacuum. It's great because people realize that it's a good. I mean, some people think, and it's not that I don't think so, but is that the cubism is good because people think that it's good. So if AI will be able to generate something that people think that it's good, how is that different from cubism or anything like that?
Okay. Okay.
I don't have a strong opinion on this point, honestly. The point I would like to make here is, are we sure that AI is different from any other topic in this respect? Because when we start speaking about good, bad, about people that can't use something, to me, AI is just a technology like anything else. And to be totally fair with you, as magic as they may seem, large language models are just models predicted, trained on predicted most likely next token in an autoaggressive way. So how is it different from, I don't know, a social network or the internet or stuff like that? We already have our ethics and moral principles, or we should have as a society, and then we should apply them to this stuff as well. With all the freedom that we have, for example, people may think TikTok is bad content. Fine. Why is it still alive as a company? Why is it making billions? It probably means that some people out there are liking that content and are willing to pay with their attention for that content. So is it truly good? Is it truly bad? I don't know, but I think these are questions that are not linked to AI itself, but are superior in spirit. They're linked to every technology, to everything, possibly.
Yeah, I mean, if we go back a bit more on the aspect on the content, one of the challenges is really about the fact that let's think about a scenario where, like, literally, for everything that is a human being created, there is like 10 times more content that has been derived from there. And in a very similar way, because at the moment, part of the challenge is that, okay, if you really try to create a GIST to say, like, what is really the value that this bring in addition to, in terms of explaining something or etc. I think that part of the challenge about being, let's say, really overloaded of content is more about the fact that for a human being to produce content takes time. For this kind of model, of course, it's way faster. So the possibility to have a lot of it's already happening. So that's one of the challenge. And of course, given the fact that the data that are publicly available, regardless if you are supposed to use them or not, it's more or less already been used entirely. And a lot of the content now is being generated by AI. We are in a situation where, of course, even if you are thinking about the quality of how the model can evolve, part of the challenge is that, okay, if the average quality of the content, the human, so working on data, making sure that the data that you are using, so the content that you are sending to use to train the model has been of high quality from, of course, your own definition, because it's also domain specific, is going to be more and more critical. So the risk is that, yes, there is no real problem by itself about the fact that people might like content that it's very similar, it's easy to consume. One of the challenge could be like, okay, it's already hard, it's going to be even harder to really define a proper data set to be used to train the next model or the next category of model, whatever it will be.
Can I add one thing? We are talking what Daniele, what Lele said about the scale of the content. I wouldn't talk about quality or good or bad content, but I would like to make a differentiation with the intentions of who's using. This is a tool, okay? Human culture from always has been built on remixing the prior content. I mean, as I told before, one school took the previous school and remixed it and did something different. And in this case, it's sort of a different tool to do the much or less the same thing. Then we can talk about copywriting. But I think there's one distinction to do between when some artist is trying to attain a vision of his own, or her own, is trying to attain, and is using this kind of tools to get this image he couldn't produce previously. That will be one case. Another case is when you're using or owning a social network and you're just trying to fill the whole network with content just to keep people engaged or addicted to that trash content. So to me, that would be like the greatest difference between these different type of uses of this very same tool.
Okay, so
I don't know if I...
Yeah, so you're saying that the two kinds of usages are...
It's not, I mean, there's not a problem with the tool itself for producing content. I could never draw anything anything good. But if I could use this to generate a drawing that I couldn't have done with my hands, and to me it has a value, fine. But that would be one case of use which I would approve. But if I use the very same tool to scale and to produce, I don't know, thousands of fake pictures just to keep people engaged on social networks or to make people angry and engaged on social networks, I wouldn't approve that kind of usage of the very same tool.
Can you do it by hand?
Creating images that are engaging or generating rage, you can do it by hand without the AI. It's not the AI the point, I think.
No, but it's like it's a scale. It gives you, yes, I mean, you can forge a photo, like there's always been this, this fake news has been all the time. It's just a scale that it gets amplified. Okay. So it's, to me, it was wrong to the broadcasting fake news like 100 years ago as it is now. I mean,
yeah, it's exactly what I was saying. That it's,
okay.
It's not related to AI. You can do it without it.
Exactly.
It's more difficult. It would take more work, but you can do it without it.
Yeah. Part of the problem is that now it's very easy. I mean, it's very easy to create fake content that it sounds very credible, while in the past it was, of course, a bit more painful. So that's part of the let's say, the challenge. So the problem is not new, but now the tool is making very easy, I would say too easy to do that.
And that's a problem we are seeing more or less with the TV series, where before, like 20 years ago, we had Lost or Friends or all the TV series that make history of television, and they were a good quality. Now we have like hundreds and hundreds of TV series, and I guess if we are going to have the same for the code, so we will have hundreds and hundreds of software poorly developed.
That's true already. I mean.
Yeah, that's true already. Talking about copyright, as you already mentioned, the problem is, I think, the difference between content and also code produced by an LLM and a person, if we say that maybe they're both converging to the average, the difference is that the person has a responsibility, while the LLM, I don't know, there is some people suing OpenAI for violating copyrights. What do you think about this?
I like the prompt that make an image of a fish of a skateboard, but it looks
that was for another image I wanted there.
I'm always first. Anyway, but I will use this time to advertise something you will like, because tomorrow at eDreams we will have a session on for the Papers We Love meetup, where we will dive inside the mind of an LLM and try to explain something that I will try to talk about in 1 minute now. It's about memorization, because this is an active area of research right now. So there are papers showing that LLMs memorize training data. Memorize, I mean memorize in a human sense. That is, they store inside their parameters exactly the same sample they saw. And in 2019, there was a paper that showed mathematically that this is necessary to obtain a very high generalization error. Why? Because when you have very unlikely samples that are very peculiar ones, it's more efficient for a deep learning model to just memorize them than to try and generalize over them because they are so rare. And guess what is rare? Personal information, for example. Did you remember when OpenAI had that very strange issue with repeat 10,000 times the word poem, and then it was regurgitating personal information? That was an instance of this issue. Writing as an output 10,000 times the word poem is very unlikely. and it drives the model to a very to a space of the text probability distribution where are very unlikely sequences like personal information. So it was poem, name, surname, email, phone number,
Bringing
and
the LLM
they
on
were
the
real.
edge of the universe.
Yes.
Probably, where everything is possible,
Exactly.
even personal information.
Exactly. So the point here is this issue is very important from a technical perspective. I'm not a lawyer, nor I have any kind of competence on copyright, so I have no position on that. But I'm an engineer, and from an engineering perspective, avoiding this from happening is exceedingly hard. I mean, the solution by OpenAI, and I don't mean by Lele, but by the best engineers in the world, to this poem issue was intercepting these requests and stating they were a violation of the terms of service and stopping the generation. Yeah, exactly. You're violating our terms of service. That is, we don't know how to solve this issue properly, so let's pretend it doesn't exist. So, once again, I'll leave to the other speaker to discuss about the issue itself. I just want to say that from an engineering perspective, this is a very hard problem, super hard.
Yeah, the topic about generalizing about adding guardrails, so try to limit the model as a pre-processing. It's one of the solutions that all the vendors are putting in place, because making sure that the model cannot produce inappropriate content for whatever definition, it's essentially not really solvable, maybe yet. And especially about, not only about copyright, I mean, okay, I work for Red Hat that does only open source code. One of the challenges is also, okay, how the definition of open source apply to models. We have, if you go to Hugging Face, you find tons of models that are claimed to be open source, but in reality, you don't have any visibility about how it's been trained, so they can likely produce personal information that are definitely not, let's say, free use. So there is also a whole field about, okay, from a legal perspective, how to evolve this kind of definition so that they can map the reality of the world that at the moment is different compared to the traditional software life cycle. So this is a scenario where at the moment, and indeed, from let's say an enterprise perspective, most of these conversations are happening more like, okay, I give you a model that I know by heart how it's been trained. Maybe it's not going to give you the best result, but it's going to be isolated in your system. But they are, let's say, sort of mitigation action, so it's not really a solution yet. There are also aspects about synthetic data generation, so try to train the model not with the actual private, let's say, personal data, but with a synthesized data that behave in the similar way, but is not exactly you. Then, of course, we can open the ethical discussion about if I describe you exactly in your way and just change your name, is it still yourself, so that is still something that you should protect or not? So, but that's a very different topic, I would say.
Any other takes on the copyright issue?
Maybe from the public as
From
well.
the public? Any idea? Do we have comments from YouTube?
There.
No. No. Okay. Said. Boop, 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 boop. Let's talk about ethics then. It's all about the environment. So apparently, ChatGPT is really expensive or thirsty in terms of water, but also energy. Probably someone can share some.
I mean, we were in the blockchain type of conversation a few years ago, and they were consuming already like a big countries. Now with this new technology, okay, we are even wasting more energy. So perfect.
I think that the main challenge in the next years will be deciding inside the company what it has to be done with LLMs and be generated, and what it has to done by the code and with the classical structure without LLMs. I've read the news about some days ago that Meta bought a nuclear reactor for using his LLMs and trainings.
I think that Microsoft is doing the same.
Yeah. the issue is also training the LLMs. So it has to be added to these values.
That's right.
And so this is the
It's
challenge.
even more.
I think that Llama 3, they published some report, and I don't remember, it was like, I don't know, 8 billion hours of GPU as a training time. So, I mean, the training of this model, especially the base model, it's really a massive job.
Yeah. I mean, about that, the only thing that I think is that there are actually. I mean, I think that it must be scaled. There are still things that consume much more. I mean, I just looked at it because I remember reading about it, and spam consumes way more than ChatGPT. And spam is something that I don't think that we might act on that, but that's completely useless.
Yeah.
So at least ChatGPT for some users is still useful. So we are comparing.
For some users.
Yeah, I mean, I guess apart from the fact that if the past is some indication of what's going to happen in the future, the flops per kilowatt is just increases year by year, and the fact is that at some point, if we stop increasing the size of these models, and mostly the ones that are used by a lot of people, so maybe. That is going to impact a little bit less. I'm more afraid about the water. The kilowatt hours is something that I think is going to become more manageable in the future, but the water consumption is, again, compared to the usual from other industries, is not enough. But since water is a real problem and it's going to become more of a problem in the future, I guess that's scarier. Sorry.
I think that's great news. No, really. I mean,
Why?
The energy part, not the water part. The energy part, because this is electricity. Electricity is the easiest energy form to be clean. If it was like ship transportation, that would be much harder to become carbon neutral. If this was some kind of chemical reaction, such as the one that we use to create cement, that would have been much, much more difficult to make carbon neutral. The companies that are consuming this energy have pledged many years ago to be completely green, and so what they are doing is that they are financing with billions of dollars solar farms and wind farms, driving down the prices of solar panels and wind turbines. So basically, this demand for energy is demand for clean energy that is driving down the prices for everyone. So let's think twice before saying that this is bad news.
Let's look at the bright side.
Let's look at the bright side. Sorry.
Is there enough energy for doing this, or we will need more, and what will be the consequences of this?
Like, is there a limit?
I don't know, honestly, because this is a question about the future.
Growing more and more up in the future, this trend or not, because the next model will be more energy required, and what will happen in your opinion on this? Because if Microsoft need a nuclear reactor, maybe for the future it will need more and more.
I think it will be kept by the law of the market. If you need more and more energy for this stuff, usually you will need to go to more expensive kinds of energy that are fossil fuels that these kind of companies want to avoid, so they're probably not going there. So probably they will limit the models to such an extent so that they can be manageable for the energy sources that we can exploit right now. For water is a little bit trickier, the discussion, because I don't know about these statistics, and I don't know about many statistics on water itself. I'm more an energy nerd. I've worked in the field for a bit of time, so I know more about that. But I know that of all the water we consume, 70% is used in agriculture, 20% in the industry. So probably those figures are still very low compared to other sectors, but I don't know. I cannot argument on this one actually.
I just asked ChatGPT for that.
Okay. I hope perplexity at least.
We have one question from the public.
First of all, thank you, because I also share the optimism that you have. And I think it's like also in non-energy sort of like things is like similar to the Jevons paradox. It's like when we had improvement on industrial revolution, it's like we thought now we actually consume more because sort of like we made progress. However, I wanted to ask what is your perspective about what they call, and I think that you were hinting about it, what they call the efficient compute frontier. Because let's say we are scaling the models, and yes, they become more powerful forever, but sort of like then it seems like you are hitting like a glass ceiling, where sort of like even the more you scale, somehow you don't achieve the level of perfection that you wish, even though you scale more. So do you have a perspective on this one to combine it?
Does anyone can answer that question?
So we have here Luca Mattiazzi. Absolutely. I need to call him on the stage because he has delivered in Paris a talk about this. No, not in Paris actually, in Biella.
Actually, sorry, I didn't mean to cause all of this hassle. So you're totally correct. There are some laws that we call scaling laws that try to find the optimal amount of parameters and data that we need to compute to achieve the best performance given a compute budget. But we seem to be, and the plots that are shown in these papers are incredibly interesting because you can clearly see that there is a boundary and you get more and more performance, but you never get below a certain threshold. Are we hitting a wall? I don't think so. Maybe with this modality. I think that one thing for sure stands out from this kind of observation is that in the end we're still doing curve fitting. It doesn't matter if you use transformers, it doesn't matter if you use LSTMs. Last week came out a paper, a preprint that was saying that they reworked the LSTM architecture and they found that they achieved similar performance to transformers with less parameters, less training time, and we need to see if this holds. But in the end, what this shows us, as François Chollet said, is that it's all about curve fitting, it's all about the data. So maybe when we get better data, reasoning data, more research about what OpenAI has been doing with the thinking step-by-step procedure, when we get the possibility to build word models with video generation, for example, we can find a new way to go below this threshold. Are we hitting a ceiling for text generation? I don't know. I think we're still getting a lot of progress. I mean, given the current benchmarks that we have. But we have lots and lots of ways to shatter that boundary with tool usage, for example. Doesn't matter if your model can count the orange strawberries. It should be writing a Python tool and invoke a Python REPL to count it for you. So we can make those more clever in many other ways. I hope I got your question. Okay, thank you. I'll go back to my position.
Thank you, Luca.
Right.
You can go back to YouTube as a YouTube technician. Okay. Thank you all. It was. I was afraid we didn't have enough to talk for 1 hour. We hit it 1 hour enough. So I'm very happy for this. Thank you all for being here. Now we are closing the YouTube live. Say hello to the internet. Hello.